Hello, my name is Kelly Bone with Driven Relationships. Today on the Driven podcast, I'm having a conversation with Kendra Harrison of Way Cool Plumbing and Air. I really connect with Kendra because she is the only girl in her family. I have four brothers, she has two. She's in a family of entrepreneurs just like me. The difference is Kendra and her family have a business together. That is something that I don't have. My dad's an architect, I own a marketing company. But Kendra and her family inspire me to talk to my dad when I see him soon and maybe talk about starting up a family business all together or some sort of venture together. So Kendra is going to share some of the inside scoop on how to handle family dynamics, how to handle hard conversations, and how to pass the torch between one generation to the next. She's a mom of young children, so she's balancing a lot. She's beautiful, she's smart, she's talented. She's really making a difference in our world and in our community and in her family business. So I'm really excited for you to hear our conversation. Here's Kendra Harrison.
It's been a lot of work
Mm-hmm.
to not talk about work. And, we're Italian. My mom's Italian from New York. And uh,
Mm-hmm.
so my dad is Italian by marriage. But there's a scene in The Godfather where Sonny slams the table and says, "We don't talk about work at the dinner table." And I watched that and I was like, growing up, my parents have always been entrepreneurs. They've always
Yeah.
been self-employed and had their own business. And growing up, my mom and dad never talked about work at the dinner table.
Really? My parents
It's
always
not
did.
until my brothers and I got involved in the business that it really overtook every aspect of our family. We would be at Sunday family dinners, holidays, and we're talking about the business when
Mm-hmm.
we should have been talking about the business during business hours. And
Right.
so I take a lot of blame on that with my siblings because that's not how we were raised. But
Mm,
when you are in that crazy growth mode of just being a business owner on a treadmill and being a technician in your business and trying to do every aspect of the business, that infiltrates every aspect of your life. And
right.
then we suffered for far too long and allowed it to happen and kind of erode the relationships with one
Mm-hmm.
another. And I'm still feeling the, repercussions of that today. I'm the oldest of three. And my middle brother and I are 5.5 years apart. My youngest brother and I are 13 years apart. Same parents, just not a lot of family planning. But my mom never wanted two kids in diapers at the same time.
Right.
And for that reason, you look at personality, birth order, like we all sort of exert these traits of being an oldest child. We're all very headstrong and determined, but in the last 18 months, I've done a lot of personal development. I've been reading a lot more, and I've been reading books that I should have read when I started in business, but I was
Yeah.
never encouraged to get a mentor, get a coach, talk
Mm,
to other people that are in my position in other companies to learn from them. And so I'm making up for a lot of lost time. And E-Myth Revisited was one of the books that I wish I had read when I
yeah.
started in business. And I recognize that my siblings and I are the perfect match. My brother Kyle is very much a technician. He's a
Okay.
technician mindset, and so is my father. And so my father would much rather have been working in the field fixing an air conditioner than working on his business or holding other employees accountable. I am very much managerial. I am a manager. I want to knock things off my administrative to-do list. I want to document processes. I want to hold people accountable. And then you have my youngest brother who is the visionary. Connor is in charge of all the marketing, the branding, the logo, the messaging, and he is, 50,000 foot view, and I'm in the trenches. So, visionary, technician, manager, we are that, holy trinity, if you will, of possibilities. And that's the thing that gets me excited. And I'm hoping, you know, if I can get my middle brother to read, maybe he can kind of see where I'm coming from a little bit better,
Yeah.
where Connor, my other brother, is coming from, and we
Right.
can lay the foundation for a better future
Yeah.
together with a little bit more understanding and a little bit more grace.
Mhm. Do you think he would be open to hiring a coach or if he wouldn't read? Because like I think that could be helpful maybe or no?
If someone else suggested it,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the reality. Like I recognize in owned and operated businesses, you have those interesting dynamics that filter in through the business. And for a lot of employees too, and clients, you need to make it feel like it's their idea, right? So
Completely.
sometimes I can say
Yes.
it, I can suggest it,
Mhm.
I need to come up with a way to make them feel like that's
Mhm.
their idea. You're
I've
right.
been I've been married for 25 years. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah,
It's what
it is,
it's
it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
right.
Um, I hear
Ah,
it all the time from my husband. And, interestingly enough, I'm working on that tactic with my, contact center. So our customer service representatives who are answering the phone for the longest time, I would take calls, I would book jobs, I would, deal with payroll, I would deal with HR issues, I would deal with employee reviews, marketing. You're trying to do far too much instead of focus on what you're good at. And I don't answer the phone anymore,
for you.
but I coach a lot of the team that does.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can give them all the scripts in the world, but
Mhm.
you need to give them the confidence and make them listen to themselves with all the call recording to recognize it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And the tone in which you deliver the message is just as important as the message itself.
Agreed. Agreed. I once talked to another woman business owner, and one of her biggest things in life was talk sweet.
Mhm.
Always talk sweet to people, and especially to her husband or men she works with. Just talk sweet to people, and they're so much more likely to be receptive to you. Just be
Yeah.
sweet, be kind. And I think that's kind of you're a woman business owner. Um, do you ever struggle with that personally of having to check your tone or slowing down a little bit because you're very
Slowing down is
and
huge.
you know what you want? Do you find that difficult being a woman in a very male dominated industry and working with your brothers and working with your father? Do you pull back a little bit on that drive or how do you
What historically, when I was, on the treadmill trying to do everything myself, um, I would get called out quite a bit for being short with people.
Mhm.
And it was never my intention to be short. It was my capacity and bandwidth were so limited. Trying to answer the next phone call, leaving someone on hold, having somebody stand over my desk, looking for an answer, but I'm on the phone and trying to do all of these things. So I'm just trying to get to the next call, get to the next problem. And you can't rush certain conversations. And especially when you're sitting down, it's so important to sit down and have regular meetings eye to eye with people
Yeah.
because you're going to get more transparency, better communication, and you're going to be far more thoughtful and get way better feedback from people when you can sit down and be eye to eye. So
Mhm.
prioritizing that,
Mhm.
documenting what comes out of those conversations, and then making sure you're following up on the action items to build trust and rapport with the person that you're meeting with. It's not, what you say, it's what you do, it's how you make them feel.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when I speak with men or women now, either or, I try to give them my undivided attention. My phone is away. You know,
Right.
I want to know exactly what you're thinking. I want to ask very thoughtful questions. I want to figure out what you care about so I can help guide you to get to the outcome that you want. And, um, in an effort to further maximize being a woman in a man's world, and also like being thoughtful about giving myself some personal development and goals, I'm taking golf lessons.
Oh,
So my
from
golf
your husband?
coach,
From your husband?
no, I have invested in a coach.
Okay.
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 I'm like 4 or 5 classes in,
Okay.
but golf is a metaphor for life.
Yes.
And there is a planning zone
Okay.
where you thoughtfully plan and you
Okay.
visualize the outcome.
Mm.
And then you move into the playing zone
Okay.
to achieve what you visualize and set yourself up for.
Okay.
And, as my coach is walking me through this, I'm like, are we talking about my life or are we talking about my golf game? Because I've spent so much of my life reacting, you know,
Yeah,
to so
you're right.
much instead of thoughtfully responding and visualizing the outcome. And as
Mm-hmm.
big as I am into like feng shui and the universe and manifesting and, you know, I have been going through so many emotions right now where I have not had an opportunity to daydream and visualize the
Mm-hmm.
end goal.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to be more intentional with that and
Mm-hmm.
communicate better with my husband,
Yeah.
like what my dream is, what's your dream, what's our dream together, what can
Yeah.
we work toward together. And the same with, my business partners, which, are my family. Like, this is my dream.
Mm-hmm.
What's yours? So we can collaborate and achieve something great together. And you get far more out of being part of a team than you do working
Running
alone.
solo. Right. That kind of transitions well into how did this all happen? Your dad was the owner. You were
Mhm.
all working in the business, right? Everyone was, all the kids, and your mom too, a little bit.
Yeah, no.
How did
So
that
my
conversation
parents,
come up that like your dad needed to, like that you need to restructure? How'd that all work?
well, I guess it goes further back than that. So my parents were always, they were self-employed in Denver. My dad started his first business there when I was 3 years old.
Okay.
Um, I think my mom worked for an oil company in Denver, and right when I was turning 5, I think she was pregnant with Kyle. They decided that she would leave her job and then help run the business.
Business. Okay.
So, you know, two kids, no insurance. I think they had to pay cash to get Kyle out of the hospital, back in the 80s. They've been doing it since 1982, been
Okay.
self-employed business owners, contracting. We moved to Arizona in 2000. I was in college, but historically, we had always seen how hard my father had worked
Mm-hmm.
out, late nights,
Mm-hmm.
his hands just covered in grease, like sweat, just my father has he's physically labored for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got back from college, I was working, I had a cubicle job, and they
Mm-hmm.
had hired an office manager who was doing like online dating, on a desktop
Your
that was like huge
your
during
parents
business
hired
hours.
someone? Your parents
Yeah.
hired
And
an
I'm
office.
like, what is this clown doing
Okay,
in
yeah.
your office? And, we had repeatedly seen just people take advantage of our parents. And at that time, I think Kyle was maybe 15 years old, maybe 8, maybe 17. Like he was still in high school. And for a kid in high school to be like, who are you hiring?
Yeah, you're like, oh, yeah,
What are you doing?
yeah.
And so I had gotten to the point where I was really unhappy in my short stint in corporate America. And I had wanted to go do other things and make a difference in another way and be more in control. And I was like, I can do a better job than he
Mm-hmm.
can. I said, just tell me what the talking parts are. Like, give me the
Yeah.
Cliff Note version. I'm a journalism major with a broadcast background. Like, I can give a sound bite about air conditioning. let me handle it. And so I got 2 days of training from my mom and, you know, started running the office and 4 or 5 technicians, including my dad.
Okay.
Um, and then my dad, he had to have back surgery. And it was like May, you know, and at that point, I think Kyle was on a victory lap at college, and we were trying to find other staff. And there was always that element of struggle where it was like, okay, I'm going to come work full time.
Mm-hmm.
So as children, it was always our choice. And there was a very similar conversation with Connor. Connor was working for a marketing agency, and we were having some office like shortages, and he's like, I want to come to work with you. And I said, this is your choice. I don't want you to feel obligated. There's a whole world out there. There's a lot of opportunity. He's like, no, I'm ready, and I want to come to work. And so we all went through this, realization that we wanted to be part of it, but a lot of it stemmed from we were really tired of our family being taken advantage of, our parents getting taken advantage of. And
Okay. Yeah. Nobody really cares about, yeah.
so there's that, like,
Yeah. Nobody cares about your business like you care about your business.
Mhm.
Oh,
But
sorry, it's lagging a little bit. Sorry.
yeah, sorry. It's nobody cares as much as you do. And so what I realize is what we're trying to achieve here is a culture where every single employee acts like a business owner.
I love it.
If you can do that, if there's that level of care,
Mm-hmm.
with business owners that are running a business
Mm-hmm.
as a business, not a lifestyle business, not taking the business for granted, like really putting the business on a pedestal that this is a beautiful thing that we're building and we want it to be successful, and honoring that on a day to day. And, why are businesses successful? They're filled with disciplined people that are consistent, that are running with the same values, and the same end goal in mind. Then, you know, that's a diamond, it's precious stone.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you hire people that are like that, or do you train them to think that way when you hire employees?
We have, we are blessed to have a lot of employees that have been with us for a
Okay.
decade or more,
They're like family.
and they're like family. And there's an extreme amount of loyalty because they've seen how my dad has worked in the field. They've
Yeah.
been there when he has been in and out of the hospital because of his valve replacement or
Mm-hmm.
his back surgery or his neck surgery. They've seen Kirk go through blood, sweat, and tears. And that is like a type of loyalty you
Mm-hmm.
experience, um,
Mm-hmm.
working alongside someone that you have tremendous respect for. And he's the ultimate founder. Like, people follow him because of
Mm-hmm.
who he is. And he's an imperfect person. He has had a lot of struggle in his life. He will be the first to tell you he's far from perfect. And he has evolved as a mentor and a coach, and he's brutally honest.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of respect that comes from that. So I'm trying to be, more transparent, more vulnerable with my team, give them more real life examples where I have struggled. And maybe that helps them realize they're not alone in this.
Yeah.
And, the challenge every day is to make people recognize how much you care about them. And
Mm-hmm.
in this industry, especially what we're up against right now, where you have more and more companies being acquired by private equity firms that are treating everyone like a number.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's so sad to see these technicians be put through the ringer and not respected for what they do and how they do it. How hard the conditions are when you're in an attic and it's 140 degrees. How hard it is to carry a 32-foot ladder around an acre property, and I always just have a tremendous amount of respect for the work they do and what they go through to earn a living.
I love that. So Kendra, when you guys rebranded,
Mhm.
Was that the same time that you restructured the company as far as you being a part owner? And how did all those conversations go? Did your dad kind of initiate that? Did you initiate that? Was that Connor? Was that Kyle? How'd that all go?
It was me.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I knew we needed help.
Hmm.
Um, in 2023, my
Hmm.
dad was in and out of the hospital again 3 times in November with this neck surgery
Hmm.
that was very unexpected. And
And you at this time
everything,
were the office manager. You were still playing that same role as office manager and just wearing all the hats and doing everything and
yes,
kind of just
yeah. So my
and everything.
mom was historically always in charge of the financials, and I started to get more of a window into where we were at financially, and the window was really not great.
Okay. Hmm.
We had a lot of new construction jobs that we had, taken in 2020 that we thought were profitable, and they weren't. And then in 2020, there was a lot of, money that was put into the business from PPP loans and,
Okay.
idle loans as a result of COVID. And so the cash flow looked okay,
Yeah.
but then all the material cost increased so much and we didn't raise our pricing accordingly.
Okay.
So our team had become kind of complacent, working hourly and just weren't efficient and weren't acting like business owners.
Right.
Um, and so I kind of just like raised my hand and said, this is not great. This is really not great at all.
Right.
We need help.
Okay.
And we were fortunate enough to, you know, get some guidance. And they
Mhm.
said, you can't put off hard conversations. The hard thing about hard things is that they don't get any easier by putting them off. So dad is not getting any younger. Mom and dad are the only business owners. Here we've invested, you know, 10 years, almost 20 years as being an employee, and we have no ownership in the business, but yet we're doing all the day to day. And,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
mom, I'm sorry to tell you that your high school accounting class
Isn't
isn't capable of managing the cash flow of this, $6 million business at the time. You've done the
business has
best
outgrown
that
her
you
skill set.
can with the
Yeah.
skills that you had. And I would
Mhm.
have I would have done better had I known better, right? We
Yeah.
didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
And my mom's a little bit of a control freak, bless her. Um, and it was very hard. Her and I really, really, really struggled last year. As I said, I'm taking control of the financials. And
Okay.
I'm going to be in charge of paying the bills. I'm going to be in charge of managing the money and allocating what we
Outsource some of
can.
the accounting though. You're not doing the QuickBooks and all that stuff. You've outsourced that, right?
I am outsourcing that, but a year
Okay.
ago, I was
Okay.
working kind of exclusively with my bookkeeper,
Okay.
CFO. And, you got to really like and leverage and trust the professionals that you hire. And even as a business owner, you always have to keep an eye on your financials,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's
Oprah
like
Winfrey
the
always
dark
said you have
side you
to,
don't want to look at,
right. Yeah.
but you can't do it.
Yeah.
And so that's why our customer base, we were just doing heating and air conditioning. They've always asked for plumbing. More of our service-based businesses are doing plumbing and air conditioning and electrical. They're a home service business. So the name was very geographically limiting as North Valley Mechanical when we serve the entire valley.
Right.
And the logo was originally clip art that we had kind of zhuzhed up a little bit, but we just needed something better. And in doing the rebrand, for our customers and more importantly for our employees, gave us an opportunity to redo our mission, to come up with our company values, to redo our handbook, to really figure out what makes us different and what do we value as an organization. So we took a group of, 50 plus people and asked them, what do you value most?
Mm.
And over and over and over again, similar values are being stated. And it came up with the 5 values of the company, which are honesty, integrity, accountability, innovation, and respect. And the mission here is to make a difference. Some companies have really long mission statements. Ours is very simple. Every day, our job is to make a difference. And, and managing employees and looking how they're working, or if they're not working out, well, it always goes back to the values and the mission.
Mhm.
Are you
Mhm.
holding yourself accountable? Are you being respectful, to your team? Are you being honest with the team and yourself?
Mhm.
And I have found that that exercise, like while we were trying to do it, it was like, really, really, it's so important. If you are trying to grow your business and
Mhm.
you're hiring people and they don't know what you value, you're just hiring them for a job.
Right.
And if they're here for just a job, they're never going to behave like a business owner. They're
Mhm.
never going to fulfill the mission. They're never going to take care of your customers like family would.
Mhm.
So, what are their job duties and responsibilities, and what are the values? And, quite honestly, as a family with little kids, we do the same thing at home, you know. Kind hands, kind heart, great day, make a friend, be a friend.
It's the same.
It's simple stuff, and yet we make it so complicated.
Right.
And luckily in redoing that and taking away a little bit of the responsibilities and the administrative details and the operational things from my parents,
Mhm.
they're getting to enjoy being business owners
Yeah.
in a more thoughtful way at, 70 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you have a lawyer come and help you with all of the ownership pieces, and
Estate planning,
is it equal? All of you, can we talk about that? Is it equal with all of you siblings and the parents? Is it a
yep,
different split?
yep,
Okay.
it's
You,
equal. But, there's estate planning components to this.
okay. Like the personal
So
side. Yeah.
aligning yourself with a thoughtful business attorney, estate planning attorney, and accounting team
Mhm.
to take advantage of, all of the tax benefits,
Yes.
and make it very crystal clear what happens in the event that something happens to dad in this family partnership. What
Yeah.
happens if something happens to one of the siblings? What happens to their share,
Mhm.
um, of the
Yeah.
business. So,
Do you think you all will always be operators in the business? Do you think you'll always work in the business, or does anyone have a desire to fill their role and maybe just be an owner? And could you work that out? If someone was like, you know what, or I have a health issue, I want to
mhm.
be a part owner because I need the money, but I'm not contributing in the way that I used to. So are you guys getting salaries as well as ownership? What does that, because those
Um,
are some of the things I talk with family and different business owners. Like, how does that work for you guys?
so when you rebrand a business, you spend an extensive amount of money. Like,
Okay.
there's a
Yeah.
huge amount of marketing efforts
Yeah.
into educating our existing customer base,
Yeah.
growing our customer base, rebranding all our vehicles,
Yeah.
uniforms, website. I mean, just it goes on and on. So we
Yeah.
we as a family made a huge investment
Okay.
last
And
year with the rebrand. And yes, we're all equal.
okay.
Um, my mother is technically a consultant in the business. Uh,
Okay.
so that's how she is compensated. My dad, who is still here on a daily basis doing training, um, dealing with customer service issues, kind of,
Mhm.
spot checking guys on job sites. He's a W-2 employee.
Okay.
My brothers and I are W-2, and we have it set up in a LLC, I believe,
Uh-huh.
as a group. And then, as we are very successful, then distributions,
Will happen.
reinvestment
Okay.
will come out of that.
What's
But
your big dream for it? Do you have like, we want to triple it, we want to quadruple it, we want to 10x this? Like what do you see in reality happening? Can you see that 5 years down the road, 3 years down the road?
um, I think last year we experienced 90% growth,
Awesome.
and it was just like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
So, you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Now trying to have 20% growth this year is really sort of a stretch with everything that's going on in the economy and in the world.
Yeah.
So my goal is kind of shifted to be more profitable,
Okay.
increase our profit margin from
What?
last year
Okay.
and further refine our playbooks within every single department and aspect of the business. Like, you know, this is how we run service calls for HVAC. This is how we run service calls for plumbing. This is our installation process. These are all of our scripts for our call center. Like, I want to develop a very thoughtful playbook. Uh, of course, I want to grow the business. I would love to see it, you know, double in size from last year. I'd love to be between 25 to 30 million a year and uh, rival, the giants, the David
Mhm.
versus the Goliath type
Right.
situation,
Right.
and inspire, other service-based businesses to do the same thing. Because, rising boats lift all tides. I think that's what the
Mhm.
phrase is. Everybody gets better.
Yeah.
And consumers are happier with the products that they're getting and the service that they're getting. And, um, there's more respect given to people that are in the trades, and more younger generations are inspired to get involved in trades.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because it can be very lucrative,
Yeah.
if you manage your body and manage your business and, accordingly. But I could also see this logo and brand be franchised in other cities, and that would be super cool, you know.
That'd be way cool.
Be way cool.
Tell me
So,
about the kids. I mean, I know your kids are little and probably are, I mean, maybe they have a little business of scratching your back or something, but do you
mhm.
think you could see them
What
coming
I
into
love,
this?
what's amazing is, you know, working like I do, I
Mhm.
don't get to spend as much time at home with the kids during the day.
Yeah.
But I have my nanny is great. And one of the most amazing things is they were out going for a walk the other day because it's been unusually cool. And
Mhm.
my son sees a way cool truck down
Mm.
the street, and he's like, way cool. And they run to the corner, they wait, they look both ways, and they
Of course.
run, and there they are, they're taking a picture in front of our neighbor's house, in front of the way cool truck. And every time they see a truck, they get so excited and they talk about way cool. And my husband has been kind enough to be in some of our advertising together. And so they see some of
Awesome.
the ads and they're like, Mommy and Daddy, way cool, and that is a huge motivator for me.
Yeah.
They're so excited about what I do and what, the family does, and they don't even really understand it, but they feel it. They feel
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, I know how I feel when I see your trucks out on the road or in
Mhm.
my neighborhood, and I'm not your kid and I'm not your family. And I feel really proud when I
But
see
you're
those.
a way cool client, and
I am a way cool
I
client.
so appreciate that. Because there's a huge level of trust when you are invited into somebody's house to take care of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Very
that's the big thing. Like, all the technicians, like, you don't take that for granted in any shape or form. It doesn't matter, what size the house, like income level or whatever. You treat everything like it's grandma's house and it's precious.
Yep. Yep. So we probably need to wrap things up, but I want to know who are you more like, your mom or your dad? In your professional life, who are you more like?
My dad,
What about your personal life? Are you more like your mom or your dad?
my dad.
Okay. Um, if the entire family disappeared, could you do this without them? If they all went on vacation, like Kendra, we're out. Could you handle
Well,
it?
there's a difference between going on vacation and
Okay.
completely
If they went on
disappearing.
vacation and never came back, we decided we're going to move to Belize.
Um, you know, if they all went on vacation, of course I could do it. The
Yeah.
team that I have around me, of course we could do it. Um, It's a good question. Would I want to?
Yeah.
Part of the joy, is the struggle, is the
Mhm.
joy. My dad came into the office today and he comes over to my desk and he's like, "Good morning, kid. How are you today?" And not to get mushy, but I always do get mushy about this.
Yeah.
There will be that time you
Yeah.
don't have that, so you don't take for years, you took that for granted. Like, Dad, could you just do this? Could you just talk to this customer this way? Dad, can you just do more? Can you just do
Yeah.
more? Like, you're always begging for more.
Right.
And in family owned and operated businesses, you will, as hard as it is. And when it's hard, you just have to remind yourself of that.
Yeah. It's so true. I know you're in a really special, sweet spot right now, Kendra. You have
Yeah.
your children, they live in your home, you have your parents, you're working with them. So many people on this planet don't even live in the same city as their parents or as
Yeah,
their
and I'm
children.
reminded of that. My husband he's a great balance because, he's English. His
Mhm.
parents are 76 years old in England. His brother is in Dubai. And when my family is like this over the business, he's like, "You
Yeah.
guys are being so foolish. What I would give to have them closer, what I would
Yes.
give to work with my family." Um,
Yes.
and so it provides great perspective. And sometimes we lose ourselves when we're just in the trenches on a treadmill. And that's why having a vision for your business uh,
Mhm.
is so important.
How do you deal, like if you're in a moment where you're very frustrated at your brother or very frustrated at your mother, how do you keep your cool? How do you keep your cool when you're in like a crucial conversation and you feel upset? What do you do?
I turned down my thermostat. Just kidding. Um, you know, pause.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's better to say nothing at all. Um, and they say something you don't like. Okay, I understand. And then I leave. I'm not going to add more fuel to the fire. I'm not going to react.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I take this, I really have been trying to be far more intentional and simply take a step back.
Yeah, that's good. It shows maturity.
Well, you can control what you can control. I can't control how they feel, but I can control my reaction. And it is you're trying to be more thoughtfully responding,
Mhm.
even when it's confrontational. You just got to pause.
Yeah, I'm going to lock that in my head, Kendra. I think I get sometimes just, I'm quick to fire things off. I'm quick to be frustrated or quick to want to give a response. And I just need to stop, take a breath, slow down a bit.